Jungkook falls just before taking the stage. Jimin sings his part in tears, and the Pledge of Allegiance echoes without needing to be said. No, Jungkook, don't you dare fall now. The roar of the stadium swallowed Seokjin's voice as Jungkook's knees buckled, his body collapsing like a marionette with its strings cut, only inches from the spotlighted edge of the stage. The lights above bathed the scene in blinding white as the countdown to their opening song hit 0. Jimin's head whipped around, eyes searching, panic blooming violently in his chest. For a split second, time twisted. The beat dropped. The crowd screamed. But Jungkook didn't rise. Namjoon reached him first, arms outstretched, catching Jungkook's slumped form just before his head hit the metal rigging. "He's burning up," he rasped. "He's not conscious." Chaos snapped into motion backstage. Their manager barked orders into a headset. Staff scrambled, paramedics rushed forward, but the music had started, the show was live, and their youngest was down. Jimin's ears rang. He stared at the figure curled like a fallen bird on the floor, chest clenching as the intro to Still With You began. It was Jungkook's solo, his most intimate performance. Meant to be live for the first time ever. Meant to mean everything. The teleprompter glowed with lyrics only Jungkook knew by heart. Jimin's mic clicked on. "Hyung, what do I do?" he whispered, his voice cracking with disbelief, pain, and the impossible weight of decision. Namjoon's eyes flicked toward him. "Bloodless. Wet. You sing." Jimin swallowed. His limbs refused to move. His throat constricted as the camera panned slowly, unaware, toward the empty stage. Jungkook was meant to command. 1 second. 2. Jimin stepped forward, his voice emerged like smoke from a house still burning, fragile, beautiful, wrecked. "I feel you." Even in this silence, his voice trembled as he sang Jungkook's words, his tone soaked in heartbreak, grief, and something older than either's devotion. And then, the lights dimmed. The screen behind him shifted, images of Jungkook laughing, rehearsing, flying flashed, and the crowd began to realize. A silence spread through the stadium, rippling from front row to nosebleeds, like a wave of prayer. People stopped filming. They stopped shouting. Jimin dropped to his knees as he sang, the tears finally spilling freely down his face, catching the stage lights like rain. In the hush that followed his final note, as his voice broke for the last time, the crowd stood, not screaming, but silently placing hands over hearts. No one told them to. No anthem played. Yet across the world, screens lit up with the same solemn gesture. It was a moment outside of language, the pledge of allegiance, of unity, of hope, of shared breath. Echoed without needing to be said. Backstage, Jungkook stirred. His fingers twitched. His eyes blinked open to the sound of Jimin crying into the mic, and the soundless thunder of love being pledged to him by millions, and in that quiet collapse, something began. Not just a performance. Not just a moment of tragedy. A reckoning, because someone had made Jungkook fall, and the truth had only just begun to flicker into view. Who touched his water bottle? Namjoon's voice was low, cold, and controlled, the kind of tone that came after panic, not during it. He stood beside the row of dressing room mirrors, fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles were colorless. The rest of the members were silent, the air thick with dread, fear, and confusion. Jungkook was lying on the medbay couch, a thin white towel pressed to his forehead, his skin pale and damp. His eyes opened slowly, and Jimin, still in his sweat-drenched stage outfit, was kneeling beside him, fingers woven tightly through Jungkook's. "I'm okay," Jungkook whispered, but his voice trembled. "You're not," Jimin snapped, shaking his head. "You collapsed. You almost cracked your head open. Don't you dare say you're okay." Taehyung stood in the corner, chewing at his fingernail, his other hand clenching the hem of his jacket. Hoseok paced behind the couch, rage and worry boiling just beneath his usually vibrant demeanor. "His vitals are stable," the paramedic said quietly, packing away the equipment. But whatever he ingested, it wasn't natural dehydration. Silence, then Yoongi stepped forward. "So someone drugged him?" No one replied. A heavy knock at the door snapped everyone's attention. Their manager, Mr. Han, entered. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes, haunted, reluctant, made the room grow colder. "There was a leak," he said. A backstage assistant posted a video. "It's everywhere. Jungkook collapsing. Jimin singing. The fans saluting. It's trending in 40 countries. We don't give a damn about that right now," Taehyung hissed. Han didn't blink. "You should." Because someone edited the video. Everyone froze, they added subtitles that weren't real. Claimed Jungkook collapsed because he was forced to perform despite being sick. That HYB covered it up. That the pledge moment was staged for PR. Jimin's face went white. What the hell are you talking about? There's a movement trending under the tag #FreeJungkook. People are saying he's being held hostage by the industry. That you all knew and let him fall. That Jimin, he looked directly at him, stole the moment on purpose. The silence was deafening. Jimin stood up slowly, his chest heaving. You think I wanted him to fall so I could cry on stage like some twisted martyr? His voice cracked. You think I needed that? No one said that, Hoseok said quickly, but it was too late. The poison had already entered the room. There are trolls out there trying to tear us apart, Namjoon said, his voice like gravel. Don't let them win. We're not going to turn on each other. But trust, once cracked, doesn't disappear, it lingers like glass shards beneath a rug. Jungkook sat up slowly, his fingers still wrapped around Jimin's. I remember something, he said hoarsely. They turned to him. There was a smell. Just before I blacked out. My water, lemon and mint, but it had this metallic taste. Like blood and rust. Yoongi narrowed his eyes. That wasn't the water we all had. Jungkook has his own supply, Jimin said quietly. Glass bottle. Always sealed. You keep it in your locker until sound check. Namjoon was already moving. Then let's go check the damn locker. The hallway outside their dressing room felt longer than usual, too quiet, like a church before a funeral. When they reached Jungkook's locker, the lock was gone. Not broken, gone inside, the glass bottle stood, still half full. But the seal had been cleanly peeled and reattached, by someone careful. Experienced. Get this tested now, Namjoon barked at Mr. Han. I'll send it to the lab we trust. Discreetly. Jungkook leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from his forehead. If they really think I'm a prisoner, then maybe someone wants me to look like one. The words hung in the air, dense with implication. Taehyung crossed his arms. But why? Who gains from making it look like the industry is abusing you? Or like we are, Yoongi said darkly. Who gains from turning the fandom against us? Someone who wants to fracture us, Jimin said, his voice quieter now, but razor sharp. To turn us into something they can sell. They returned to the med bay. Jungkook had to rest, but none of them could sit still. The press was already outside the venue. Some were crying. Some were screaming. HYB was scrambling, issuing statements, but the footage had gone viral far beyond their control. Even governments were issuing comments. The symbolic nature of the silent pledge, it had ignited something worldwide. A call came through on Namjoon's encrypted phone. Only 2 people had that number. He stepped out to answer. When he returned, he looked like he had seen a ghost. That was the Minister of Culture. Everyone stared, he said, to be careful. There are forces watching us now. And if we dig too deep into this, he stopped, looking directly at Jungkook. Someone will try again. Jungkook closed his eyes. Let them, he said quietly. But next time. I won't fall. Outside, the crowd chanted his name. Not as a pop idol. Not as a product. But as something else entirely. A symbol, and symbols, once broken, are never forgotten. They become weapons. They become myths. The room fell silent again, this time not from fear, but from the shuddering weight of what had been set into motion, and no one knew who would be next. But the stage was no longer safe, and neither were they. Are you sure you want to do this live? Jimin didn't answer right away. He was sitting on the edge of the rooftop, his legs dangling dangerously over the side, eyes staring down at the thousands of fans gathering below the company building. A storm of love and fury rolled in their chants. Some were holding candles. Some held signs that read "Protect Jungkook." Others held signs that read "Justice for Jimin." Namjoon stood behind him, arms crossed, anxiety rippling off him in waves. You go live now, you could blow everything open. Or pour gasoline on it. Jimin turned his head slowly, his face pale under the dull grey sky. They already think I'm the villain, Hyung. They're dragging me through fire for crying over my brother. For doing what you told me to do. Namjoon flinched. I didn't mean you told me to sing, Jimin snapped. And I did. You told me to step forward when Jungkook couldn't, and I did. Now they say I staged his fall, that I rehearsed my tears, that I sabotaged him. He turned back toward the street. So yeah, I'm going live. Back inside, the rest of the members were watching the media implode. Every news channel was running the footage, dissecting Jimin's expression frame by frame, comparing old rehearsals to the live performance. Commentators argued about authenticity like it was a political debate. They're using AI to compare his facial micro-expressions, Yoongi said bitterly, tossing his phone on the couch. They've turned grief into *King Lab experiment. Jungkook sat quietly, wrapped in a hoodie and layers of fatigue. He looked better, more color in his cheeks, but his eyes still carried shadows. They're not just accusing Jimin, he said suddenly. I saw a thread. They think I faked it, too. Taehyung's head snapped around. You're joking. They think I fell on purpose. To trigger sympathy. To sell albums. That I overdosed for marketing. No one laughed. I don't get it, Hoseok muttered. Where the hell is this coming from? Fans don't just flip like this. Not overnight. They do, Namjoon said quietly. If someone pushes the right buttons. If they've been watching long enough to know where we're vulnerable. A loud ding broke the silence. All their phones buzzed at once. A new video had just dropped, anonymous, untraceable, posted to a mirror site already being flooded by ARMY. It was surveillance footage. From inside HYBE. Blurry, but clear enough. A figure, face masked, hoodie pulled tight, opening Jungkook's locker. Tampering with the water bottle. The timestamp was 2 hours before the show. Then another figure enters, tall. Slender. Wearing HYBE staff credentials, and then, they hug. Everyone froze. Yoongi reached for the pause button, but Namjoon's voice stopped him. No. Let it play. The masked figure handed the second person something, small, silver. Possibly a vial. The second person tucked it into their blazer and walked away. Jimin stared at the screen. Rewind. Zoom in. The figure's back was turned, but as they walked away, their face briefly caught the corner security mirror and froze. Timed at it was Mina, former HYBE trainee. Vocal prodigy. The one who nearly debuted alongside them. The one who had disappeared 6 months ago after a scandal, quietly buried by legal teams. Jungkook stood up. She's the one who, Namjoon cut in. She was expelled. Blacklisted. For hacking. She accessed private files and sold them to tabloids. She blamed me for that, Jimin whispered. Said I snitched. I didn't. But she never believed me. She told me once, Jungkook said slowly, that the only way to destroy a symbol was from the inside. Make people stop believing. And they'll burn it down themselves. Another alert lit up their phones. Mina's name was trending. Someone had recognized her in the video. She was already denying it. Her statement was calculated, perfectly timed, complete with fake tears in a livestream where she claimed she was being scapegoated by the idols who ruined her life. She's flipping it, Taehyung said. She's blaming us. Again. Of course she is, Yoongi said grimly. And people will believe her. Because they want to believe their idols are fake. It makes them feel less small. But why go this far? Hoseok asked. She didn't just try to humiliate us. She poisoned Jungkook. Namjoon looked up. Because it's not just her. Everyone turned. She's not smart enough to stay hidden this long, he said. There's someone else behind this. Feeding her. Protecting her. Who? I don't know. But whoever it is, they're inside. And they're playing a long game. The door creaked open. Mr. Han stepped in, pale, holding an envelope. You all need to see this. Inside was a letter. No signature. Typed. Cold one fell. The others will follow. Burn the mask or wear it forever. And attached an old photo, the 7 of them. Smiling. Years ago. With a red X marked over Jungkook's face. Silence. Then Jimin spoke. We don't run. Not this time. Namjoon nodded. We go live. We show the world what's real. No filters. No edits. Just truth. Yoongi pulled out his phone. And we find her. We follow the money. We expose everything. Jungkook looked at them all, His brothers. He stood taller. Let them come, he said. We're not idols anymore. We're a revolution. And somewhere beneath the city, a screen blinked to life. Mina watched them, smirking. You're not ready, she whispered to the dark. None of you are. And the war for belief began. You have exactly 3 minutes before this goes live globally. Once I hit this button, there's no taking it back. Jimin stood behind the glass wall of the makeshift broadcast room, eyes locked on the red countdown clock blinking like a threat above the camera. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage held in check too long. Namjoon stood beside him, eyes steely. Jungkook leaned forward, gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him grounded outside. The press had set up a siege around the HYBE building. Drones buzzed like hornets. The public's attention was not just on them, it was weaponized. Every blink, every breath would be dissected. This is suicide, their legal advisor warned from the other side of the glass. You can't accuse someone publicly with this little proof. The video is circumstantial. You'll open yourself up to lawsuits, millions. Namjoon didn't even look at him. Let them sue. Let them crawl. We've been controlled by silence long enough. Jimin's jaw clenched as the final seconds ticked down. 3, 2, 1. The red light turned solid. Why? He began, his voice raw, cracking on the edges like ice about to shatter. This isn't scripted. This isn't filtered. This is not a performance. Jungkook took over. I'm speaking because I nearly didn't wake up. Someone drugged me before our last performance. They wanted me gone. Taehyung stepped forward from behind the camera, revealing himself to the feed. They didn't just want to hurt Jungkook. They wanted to tear us apart, piece by piece. Make you stop believing in us. Yoongi's voice joined next. This isn't about clout. This is a war for truth. And the enemy wears our smile, speaks our language, knows our weaknesses. Then the screen behind them flickered on. Security footage. Paused on Mina's face. Jimin turned toward the lens. This woman was once our family. Now she's the face of betrayal. But she's not working alone. She's a distraction. Someone deeper is pulling the strings, Namjoon said, voice sharp. And we're going to find them. Because this industry doesn't get to use our bodies, our pain, and call it entertainment anymore. The livestream exploded. Millions flooded in. Comments flew by in every language. Some were in shock. Some in denial. Some brimming with fury, but a small fraction turned. Screenshots began to circulate, old backstage photos. Grainy videos from years ago. Edited footage from previous tours. Suddenly, every moment in BTS history was under forensic scrutiny. Conspiracy theorists who once lived in the margins were now being quoted by journalists. He faked his tears here. She avoided eye contact with Jungkook that day. Jin's hand was clenched during this rehearsal. Was he in on it? The members watched in horror as their truth began to be twisted, reframed, pulled apart like meat from a carcass. Jimin slammed his hand against the table. They're doing it again. Turning honesty into poison. Namjoon turned slowly toward him. No. We keep going. We burn the whole house down if we have to. We find the root. And that's when the text came. No number. No name. Just one message. You want the root? Then come to where it all began. Basement level. Subsection D. Midnight. Alone, everyone stared at it. Yoongi exhaled. This sounds like a trap. That's because it is, Taehyung said. But we're still going. Not all of us, Jungkook said. It says alone. No chance in hell, Jimin growled. You're not walking into this alone, Jungkook. But Jungkook was already pulling on his jacket. Let me do this, he said softly. I need to know who did this to me. I need to see them. Midnight came like a predator. The building was under full lockdown. Security had been instructed to stay away from subsection D, a floor so old and buried it hadn't been used since their trainee days. Jungkook walked the corridor alone. The air was thick, humming with electricity and memories. He passed the old rehearsal mirrors, cracked now. Posters peeling from the walls. The ghosts of the past whispered through the vents. He reached the door. It creaked open. Inside was a single chair. And a projector. He stepped in. The door slammed shut behind him. The projector flickered on footage. Not of Mina. Not of anyone he expected. It was him, Jungkook at 16. Sitting in a tiny studio. Hooked up to wires. Crying. A voice asked him a question from off camera. What would you do to be loved by the world? His young voice, desperate and soft, anything. The screen went black, and a voice echoed from the shadows. You did, Jungkook. You gave them everything. Your youth. Your voice. Your soul. And now they'll eat you for dessert. A figure stepped forward. It wasn't Mina. It was someone they had trusted from the beginning. Mr. Han, their manager. You were never just idols, he said, stepping into the dim light. You were an experiment. You just didn't know it. Jungkook didn't move. He was trembling. Mr. Han smiled. And now, you've ruined everything. You broke the script. So the only way out now is for you to disappear. Back upstairs, alarms began to sound. Jimin's voice rang out. Where's Jungkook? Yoongi had already accessed the building's surveillance. His fingers stopped cold on the keyboard. The cameras are down, he whispered. All of them. Then he saw it, the elevator to subsection D stuck. Power cut, and the words spray-painted on the wall outside, the boy who flew too close to the stage. Time cracked, and BTS ran. The stairwell echoed with the pounding of boots and panic. Namjoon was shouting into his phone, his voice sharp and broken with urgency. Cut the main breakers, force power back to subsection D. I don't care how you do it. Just get him back online. Jimin ran ahead of them all, 3 steps at a time, his lungs burning, his mind racing with one image, Jungkook alone, locked underground with a man they all trusted more than themselves. A man who had once bandaged their fingers and silenced scandals. A man who now, apparently, wanted to erase them. Yoongi's voice came from behind, breathless but steady. I'm sending the internal coordinates to my tablet. There's a security tunnel that bypasses the lock. It's old, but it might still work. Taehyung grabbed the tablet from his hands, skimming the blueprint with wide, furious eyes. There. We cut through here, back utility access through the media archive vault. It's a crawl space, but it leads to the soundproof bunker. Soundproof. That word twisted like glass in their chests. Inside the basement, Jungkook's back was pressed to the cold wall, sweat dripping down his temple. Mr. Han stood only a few feet away, holding a small device in his hand, sleek, metallic, blinking slowly. I was the one who made you, Han said, voice low, dangerously calm. When everyone doubted your voice, when they wanted to kick you out for being too quiet, too sensitive, too soft, I stood up for you. And this is how you repay me. You go live. You expose the cracks in the machine I built with my own hands. Jungkook didn't blink. You didn't build me. You built a prison. And called it love. Han's eyes narrowed. Don't be dramatic. You were nothing without me. Just another pretty face with no spine. I gave you the path. The story. The tragedy that sells. Jungkook shook his head slowly, the fury in his chest rising like wildfire. You drugged me. You tried to destroy the group. You pitted fans against Jimin. You manipulated everything. Because that's the business. Han snapped, the calm mask slipping for the first time. They don't want idols anymore. They want martyrs. Scandals. Devotion with teeth. You think they cried for you because they love you? No. They cried because you almost died. You became useful. You're sick, Jungkook breathed. And I'm done letting you decide who I am. Han stepped forward, raising the device. Then I guess we've reached your final act. But before he could press the button, the wall behind him exploded smoke. Fire. Screaming metal. The security tunnel burst open, and Jimin came through first, coughing, eyes wide with horror as he saw Jungkook cornered. Without thinking, he launched himself at Han, slamming him against the wall with a strength born of desperation. You lay one more hand on him, Jimin growled, and I'll make sure you never walk again. Han laughed, a dry, cracked sound. Too late. The moment this story broke, the vultures were already circling. You think this ends with me? Namjoon rushed in next, followed by Yoongi and Taehyung, who immediately secured the room and retrieved the device from Han's fallen hand. Yoongi examined it carefully. It's a pulse disruptor. Illegal. Military grade. meant to disable neural response temporarily. He was going to use this on Jungkook. Again. Jungkook collapsed into Jimin's arms, breathing hard. He was behind it all. The poison. The leaks. Even Mina. She was just his pawn. Han spat blood and smirked through broken teeth. You still don't get it. I'm not the monster. They are. The ones who told me what to do. Who funded it. Who wanted to see how far you'd go before you broke. Taehyung stepped forward. Who? Han's eyes flicked up to the corner of the ceiling, where a single security camera blinked red. They're watching. Always. Sirens began to blare above ground. The police had arrived. But so had someone else. As the members escorted Jungkook up the stairs, leaving Han cuffed in the vault, a sleek black car pulled into the private HYBE entrance. Out stepped a woman in a navy suit, flanked by 4 men in dark coats. Her badge gleamed. Kang Mi-rae, she said calmly. National Intelligence Bureau. We've been monitoring this operation for months. Namjoon stepped in front of her, shielding the others. Why didn't you stop him? Because we needed to see how far it went. Who else was involved? Han was just a pawn. And Mina? Yoongi asked. She was bait. But she got greedy. Went rogue. She's in custody now. Jimin pulled Jungkook closer. So what now? You bury the story? Protect the higher-ups? Mi-rae's expression didn't change. No. We go public. The entire industry's under review. There's going to be trials. Exposures. Some of your friends, your colleagues, they won't all come out clean. Jungkook stepped forward. What about us? Mi-rae looked at him for a long moment. Then nodded. You become witnesses. And symbols. And if you're willing, agents of change. Later that night, in a hotel room far above the noise of Seoul, the 7 sat together in silence. No cameras. No mics. Just breathing. Jungkook was lying across the couch, his head in Jimin's lap. The others were sprawled across the floor, too drained to speak. I almost didn't make it, Jungkook whispered. You did, Jimin said, brushing his hair gently. And you're not alone. Namjoon lit a candle in the center of the room. For everything we lost, he said quietly. And everything we're about to fight for. They each took a moment to look into the flame, and in that small circle of light, something shifted. They were no longer idols, they were survivors, and tomorrow, they would be revolutionaries. Why is my name on this list? Taehyung's voice cracked the silence like a whip, the printed sheet trembling in his grip. The document had been slipped under their hotel door in the dead of night. No return address, no fingerprints, just names. Dozens of names. Artists. Executives. Trainees. Managers. All tied to something called the Eclipse Program. And near the top, under the subheading Subject 17, was his. Yoongi was the first to react. What the hell is this? Namjoon grabbed the paper, scanning the contents with eyes that grew colder with each line. These are files. Psychological reports. Notes. Ratings. His voice dropped lower. Compliance thresholds. Emotional vulnerability levels. Hoseok snatched it next. They tested us. All of us. Like lab rats. Taehyung stood frozen, jaw clenched, nostrils flared. I don't remember any of this. I didn't sign up for any of this. Jungkook sat upright, his body still fragile but eyes burning with alertness. We were kids. They didn't need us to sign. They just needed us to believe they cared. Jimin took the papers slowly, reading each word as if it were a blade pressed against his throat. They wanted to see how much pain we could take before breaking. How much heartbreak we could carry and still sing through it. It wasn't just marketing. It was manipulation at a systemic level. Behind them, the muted TV began to flicker, breaking news across every channel. HYBE was under federal investigation. Arrests had begun. Former board members were being dragged out in handcuffs, but in every news scroll, there was one constant image: BTS's livestream. The one that broke the dam. Their faces. Their pain. Their truth. And now the world demanded more. They were no longer just idols. They were case studies. Symbols. Proxies for a corrupt empire unraveling at the seams, and it was ripping them apart. We didn't ask for this, Hoseok whispered. We just wanted to make music. To tell stories. To connect. We're connected now, Yoongi said darkly. To every broken trainee who was told to smile through trauma. Every fan who thought their idol's tears were just part of the show. We are the reckoning. Jimin paced the room like a caged animal. It doesn't matter. The more we speak, the more they twist it. They say I orchestrated everything. That my tears were crocodile tears. Now they're saying I was subject zero. The one who started it all. Namjoon looked up sharply. That's a lie. They say I manipulated the rest of you into becoming a story. That I was a child actor before I was a trainee. That I was planted. Taehyung punched the wall, a sharp crack echoing in the room. What kind of sick mind spins that? Jimin stopped moving. His face was blank. Hollow. I don't know what's real anymore, he said. Maybe I was the perfect subject. The broken boy with a desperate need to be loved. Jungkook stood, his voice hoarse but clear. Don't you dare say that. You don't remember the first time we met, Jungkook, Jimin said softly. But I do. You were terrified. And they told me to comfort you. They coached me. They said the camera would be watching. They wanted our bond to be real, but also marketable. Yoongi's face paled. You think they planned us? I don't know anymore, Jimin shouted, voice finally breaking. I can't tell what was love and what was programming. Silence collapsed over them. Then Jungkook walked across the room and wrapped his arms around him. Tight. Fierce. You were real. You still are. They may have orchestrated the stage, but the way you looked at me when I cried, that wasn't acting. Jimin broke into sobs, knees giving out. He collapsed to the floor with Jungkook still holding him. Namjoon turned away, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. We have to burn it all down. Not just the people. The whole system. The culture that says idols are products. That suffering sells. But we can't do it from the shadows, Hoseok said. We need a stage. Taehyung looked up, eyes dangerous with inspiration. Then we give them a stage. One last concert. But not the kind they're expecting. Jungkook's voice trembled. They won't allow it. Namjoon smiled grimly. They won't know until it's too late. By dawn, they were already planning a secret venue. Invitations sent not to executives, but to fans. Survivors. Whistleblowers. Truth-tellers. A live broadcast with no delays, no producers, no filters. A set list that would become a weapon. But even as they planned, the darkness crept closer. 2 more staff members went missing. Mina escaped custody. The media began spinning conspiracy theories faster than they could debunk them, and worst of all, a package arrived at the hotel. No return address. Inside, a burnt-out earpiece. Jungkook's with a note. You can't kill a machine if the audience loves the performance. It was war now, not of bullets or bombs, but of belief, and the world was watching to see who would fall next. The air backstage was thicker than sound. Somewhere beyond the blackout curtains, the crowd was already gathering, not tens of thousands, but millions, watching the livestream countdown ticking on every screen from Seoul to Sao Paulo. It wasn't promoted, it wasn't sanctioned, and yet, the underground concert had become the most anticipated event of the decade. Jungkook stood center stage, eyes closed, the microphone cool in his hand. His heartbeat pulsed like a drum beneath his ribs. Behind him, the other 6 waited, Jimin with his head bowed, Yoongi adjusting his in-ear with trembling fingers, Taehyung in stillness like a held breath, Hoseok humming under his breath like a prayer, Namjoon tapping his thumb in a silent rhythm, and Jin returned. His arrival had been unannounced. 1 hour before the show, he walked through the back in trance in military fatigues, silent and unreadable, simply saying, I'm here. I'm not letting you finish this without me. No one asked how he got out. No one cared. The time struck 0. The lights rose. Silence. Jungkook stepped forward and spoke, not sang, but spoke, and the sound was clearer than any melody he'd ever delivered. We were made to be gods. Then broken like toys. Every camera flickered. Every viewer leaned closer. They dressed our wounds in glitter. Turned our nightmares into choreography. Called our pain resilience. The first chord struck Yoongi at the piano, slow and dissonant. A new song. One never heard before. One they wrote in the weeks after the collapse. A requiem, an anthem, a confession. Jimin's voice came next, shaky, brutal, honest. I watched my brother bleed in silence while cameras asked for another smile. Taehyung, they made our love a transaction. Jin, I forgot my own name chasing the one they sold me. Namjoon, they didn't script our unity. That was ours. That's what they feared. The crowd didn't cheer. They cried. Hands in the air, not waving, but trembling, reaching. Not for idols, but for something real. Halfway through the set, Jimin paused mid-verse. The music stopped. I have something to confess. Jungkook turned his head sharply, but didn't stop him. I was used. Coached. I don't know when the lies ended and I began. He looked out, breathing ragged. But I also know this. When Jungkook fell, I didn't act. I broke. And that was real. He looked at Jungkook directly. You saved me. Not the other way around. Jungkook walked to him, put a hand on his shoulder, and whispered, not for the mic but just for him. You carried me through the fire. The show continued, but the shift was seismic. They didn't just perform. They testified. They called out names. They revealed documents. They showed footage of coercion, abuse, corruption, children turned into products and tossed away like empty cases. Then, near the end, they called someone on stage. Hermina, she stood on the edge, hesitant. No security guards. No handcuffs. No makeup. Just the truth on her face, naked and devastating. Namjoon handed her a mic. She held it like it burned her skin. I was the villain, she said. But I was also a victim. They promised me I'd be the 8th star. They fed me dreams and then used me to silence the rest. Her voice cracked. And I let them. The audience was silent, but no longer angry. Just listening. I'm sorry, she whispered. Not to the industry. To you. I broke the only family I had. Yoongi stepped up beside her. Then help us bury the machine that did this. And so she stayed, for the final song. It was the one they wrote when they thought they wouldn't survive. Not a song of triumph, but of endurance. It wasn't about rising. It was about remaining. Still standing. Still singing. Still breathing. As the last note faded, the livestream cut to black. The world erupted. Politicians called for hearings. The idol system cracked under scrutiny. Laws were changed. Contracts rewritten. Survivors stepped forward, voices once silenced now amplified. The term idol was redefined. BTS vanished for months. They disappeared from public view. Some said they were in hiding. Others believed they had gone separate ways. But then, 1 year later, a letter was posted. Handwritten. Signed by all 7. We're not gone. Just living. Healing. Creating. You made us human again. And attached, a line from the final song. We are not your perfect story. But we are still here. No comeback was announced. No album scheduled. But in that silence, they became louder than ever. Not idols, legends. And in their absence, a generation rose, no longer asking to be loved, but demanding to be seen.